Listen up, I got a story to tell. We're raising hell every Monday and Thursday.
Culture, listen up, I got a story to tell. We're raising hell every Monday and Thursday. Pop culture unleashed, facts unfiltered, hype increased. Unleashed, breaking through the screen, living in chaos, creating the dream. This is where rage and humor collide, so hold on tight. I got that drive in me, for the life of me, staying truly thankful for the fans I see. Talking to people of all types, making the chat hype. The more united we are, the higher we all fly. I got that drive in me, for the life of me, staying truly thankful for the fans I see. Talking to people of all types, making the chat hype. The more united we are, the higher we all fly. Unleashed, breaking through the screen, living in chaos, creating the dream. This is where rage and humor collide, so hold on. Starts igniting, my brain starts igniting. When shame starts writing, God placed us in this fighting to speak and enlighten. We don't sleep to dream, we sleep to build stamina, energy to do our thing. Get your camera lights dim, the chat starts to grin. The stream is live and buffering, the show is about to begin. So sit down and buckle it in. This is Unleashed, breaking through the screen. Pop culture chaos, living the dream, and the dream. Every Monday and Thursday, pop culture unleashed, living the...
You know the problem with Hollywood is? They make shit. Unbelievable, unremarkable shit.
To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair.
Will you fight? No! We will run! And we will live!
Shame on you. This could be the greatest night of our lives. But you're gonna let it be the worst.
And I guarantee you, a week won't go by in your life you won't regret walking out, letting them get the best of you.
Well, I'm not going home.
Day may come when the courage of men fails, but it is not this day.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
I'm not saying it's gonna be easy.
You're gonna work harder than you ever worked before.
I really do believe that together we can accomplish anything.
Because we'll never stop learning and we'll never stop growing.
Failure is not an option.
That's how winning is done. Believe me when I say
We can break this army here. It has made us brothers.
I say to you, what every warrior has known since the beginning of time.
You've got to get mad.
I mean plumb mad dog mean.
If you would be free men, then you must
Fight to fulfill that promise. Let us
cut out their living guts
1 inch at a time.
And they will know what we can do!
Let no man forget how menacing we are. We are lions.
This is your time.
Seize the day.
Never surrender. Victory or death.
So come on then! Take it!
This is where we hold them. This is where we fight.
All right, let's fly! My name is the Lord.
when I tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our Independence Day.
You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world.
We don't sleep to dream, we sleep to build stamina, energy to do our thing. Get your camera up. This show is about to begin, so sit down and buckle it in. Let's go!
Hey everybody, how you guys doing? My name is Brian, as you know, and my friend here today is Matt Kadish. You are watching Unleashed Mondays and Thursdays when I am not exhausted at 4 o'clock. How you doing today, Matt?
Doing good, man. I'm enthralled with this P. Diddy drama that's unfolding as we speak.
Oh, I missed it. What's going on with P. Diddy?
All right, so there are some allegations of child, hanky-panky trafficking that he's involved in. and he just hopped his private jet to fly to a city or an island with no extradition to America. So it looks like he's fleeing the country, getting ahead of any arrests that the Department of Homeland Security might have to put him in jail for this alleged crime that he's committed. So it's not looking like he's an innocent guy at the moment.
God. Yeah, of course. Yeah. When you are accused of doing something heinous and then your first reaction is to jump on a plane and go to a place where they can't get you.
Yeah, apparently they're using, or I should say the Twitter citizen journalists are using this airplane tracking website that's publicly available.
Right.
Because even private jets, they have to file like their flight plan and stuff like that. And he's leaving for Cape Verde, which is a island that has no extradition treaty with the U.S. So it looks like he's basically just making a run for it because apparently he doesn't want to be arrested for something that he might be guilty of. But it reminds me a lot of was it R. Kelly? That situation. Except R. Kelly didn't leave. So Puffy is definitely getting ahead of something.
Oh, yeah, he's out. I saw a YouTube video the other day talking about Charlie Sheen was accused of doing pretty heinous stuff with like Corey Haim.
Really?
And and they were super graphic, Corey Haim told me that Charlie Sheen got me between the two trailers and pulled out the Crisco oil. I'm like, what the? And I'm looking at this like short while I'm watching 2.5 Men, and I'm like,
I don't know if I believe that. I know Charlie Sheen was always like kind of like a wild card, but he never struck me as the type to play for like the home team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. And I met Corey Haim. I worked on a jewelry line called Mona Okoji's Nahita line. It was like a celebrity jewelry thing. I did their website and their audio and video stuff. And I actually met Corey Haim because he was supposed to be adding his collection to this website. And he was really unhinged. I remember telling the owner, Mona Okoji, I'm like, I do not want to go to Corey's house again. And then like a couple months later, he unalived himself with an overdose.
Well, first of all, never use unalived in my presence again because it's not a word.
Well, we're in the first like 10 minutes of the show. I don't want to get blocked.
Secondly, a lot of that stuff with child actors in Hollywood, it's based around like the power hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Being abused by a fellow actor, that's not like really something that could, I think happen because they're on the same playing field. But unless like the actor's like super famous and powerful within Hollywood. But if you look at what Corey Feldman has alleged and all that stuff, it's always the people who are like behind the scenes or the producers or like the money men or something like that.
Right.
There's a new documentary that just came out. It's actually a series, but it's about the guy who was behind all like the big live action Nickelodeon kids.
Oh
TV
yeah,
shows.
I started watching that. Man, that is
that's
that
crazy.
Is gnarly.
I wanted to start watching it, but my wife refuses because she's like, I don't want to be traumatized.
Watching Ariana Grande try to milk a phallic potato. I didn't realize. Like I remember watching that when I was younger, watching those episodes, and I never really put the two and two together. But yeah, now as an adult, I'm like, oh yeah, a lot of that seems really sexual and weird. Oh no.
Yeah, but there was also like there were lots of reports. Like there was this girl she was like a co-star with Jamie Lynn Spears, Britney Spears' sister,
right,
on a TV show. I forget what the TV show was called. But for like years, she's been out there kind of sharing her story about the psychological and verbal abuse that she was subjected to from like the producers and like Jamie Lynn Spears and all that other stuff. And, Brian, you've worked in Hollywood. I've worked in Hollywood. It's like I shouldn't say everyone, 90% of the people who work in the industry are somewhat narcissistic. And in that sense, they have sociopathic tendencies. So there tends to be a lot of bad behavior, and a lot of that stuff gets amplified. And also, there's like this protection mechanism within Hollywood where, like, if you know the right people or you're in the right social circles, you can behave as bad as you want and get away with it. I mean, just look at Harvey Weinstein. Like, he basically he would have kept getting away with what he was doing if it weren't for the fact that that one reporter, I forget his name, but he was Mia Farrow's son or something like that. He basically, like, the publication that he was writing the expose on Harvey Weinstein for was trying to squash it. And he just said, no, I'm not letting you do this. And he like got it out there. And the reason that it snowballed and took down Harvey Weinstein was because it got out there. He was able to bypass the censorship that was trying to keep it hidden. So like, there's a lot of that stuff that goes on, but have you watched the Army Hammer documentary or the R. Kelly documentary?
I watched the R. Kelly one. I forgot what it was called. It was a really
Surviving
funny...
R. Kelly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch the Army Hammer one though. Yeah, what I've noticed for people I've worked for in the past in Hollywood, were the best guys were the ones, like, they all have like extremely narcissistic tendencies where they're like really all about themselves. But the best ones were, the best bosses I've had were the ones that show their appreciation outside their narcissism. And there's a good few people. There's a few good people I've worked for in the past. And even if they were a little bit yelly and narcissistic, like, they had they really took care of you after the job was done correctly. But I've worked for some people that were just horrible, just really horrible people. But I had to keep on going so I can get that next referral to get the next job,
Yeah, a lot of people, they just shut up and take the abuse because they don't want to be blacklisted.
Right.
Is, something that's very real in Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
But did you see the Trump news today?
I didn't. Wait, hold that. Okay. Hold that thought. First off, thank you. You're on fault for gifting one pop culture membership. I appreciate it. Kenneth the Rogue for 7 months. What a rock star. If you guys didn't know, Kenneth the Rogue is also a member on our other channel for like 2 years. So he is just supporting the crap out of us. Thank you, Kenneth. And Frodo Lives for $2.99. Thank you. Frodo Lives. I don't know why it's not on the screen. There it goes. I really appreciate it. If you want to become a member, it's pretty simple. Hit that join button below, because after our discussion here, we're going to go into the member section where we get a little bit more rowdy, and I get to complain about this Stargate news that popped up recently, and I can only do that in the member section. So I can't do it here because there are people here that will watch it public that will give me a hard time. But in the member section, I can complain to my heart's content. Okay, what were you saying, Matt?
All right, so did you hear about the big Trump news that happened today?
Which one? The bloodbath one?
No. It was, so basically, like, we were coming up on the deadline for him to put up the $500 million bond.
Oh, yeah,
otherwise,
that's right.
New York was going to start seizing his assets.
The assets so the reason why he has that giant bond to put up is because he misreported those assets, according to them. So they're going to seize the same assets. Yeah, misreported. Yeah. They're going to seize the same assets for the value that he reported them as valued.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so hypocritical, dude. Go ahead.
Yeah, CNN talking about how he could sell Mar-a-Lago for like $250 million or something like that. And the court valued it at like 18.
Yeah, $18 million. When it's surrounded on all sides by hundreds of millions of dollars worth of property.
Yeah. So Trump, like, basically he can't appeal the decision until he puts up the bond. For whatever reason, New York has some funky laws, but he went to court today, and basically the judge ruled that he only had to pay $125 million bond.
Wow.
And he's got an extra 10 days to come up with the money. So basically the New York Attorney General's scam of trying to like seize all the money that he was going to use for campaigning and try to bankrupt him and stuff like that got dealt a big blow. I mean, Trump already had to put up $100 million bond for the E. Jean Carroll decision.
90 million something.
But he for this one, like basically like now he only has to come up with like 125 million, which is still a lot of money, but it's like way better than $500 million. And they still keep tacking on like interest for like whatever reason. But it's the first step in Trump basically being able to like appeal this ridiculous decision. And on Twitter, they've actually been going through the actual written out decision of like you know like what Judge Edgron or whatever his name is like came up with, and it's just filled with like multiple examples of legal malpractice. Like they actually had witnesses that were willing to come forth and testify about like, you know, Trump's assets and their actual value and stuff like that, and the judge was just like, no, I don't want to hear it. And so they never allowed these witnesses to come forward and refute the claims. And apparently in a summary judgment, that's not allowed. Like you have to allow people to present facts in the case, even if they might go against like, you know, like the plaintiff's like claims, especially if they go against the plaintiff's claims. But the judge can't just like dismiss those outright if they contradict something that was submitted to the court. And so like the guys who are going through this thing are just finding multiple examples of legal malpractice on the part of the judge. And it's very obvious that this was just like a hit piece meant to try to bankrupt Trump before the election. It's crazy. Like, even if you don't like Trump, you have to admit that this type of legal lawfare, where they specifically target an individual and try to not only take all their money and their assets, but ultimately ruin their lives, is evil. Like it's
evil.
It's the type of thing that happens in a banana republic dictatorship.
Yeah.
To wipe out any threat of political opposition.
No, you're completely right. We cannot allow our pure legal system, which is what it should be, to be corrupted by political maneuvering. This is not right, and it would be wrong on either side. If you were doing this to, I don't know, President Biden or Kamala Harris or whatever, I would be saying the same exact thing. We cannot utilize our legal system as political tools. Not allowed. We cannot do that.
Yeah, and the whole basis of this case, which was never actually a trial, right? It was never brought before a jury. It was basically a bench trial where the accusation was that Trump committed fraud by claiming his assets were worth more than they actually were. But there was, like, people keep calling it a victimless crime. It wasn't even a crime. Like this is stuff where basically he asked for a loan from various banks.
Mark Cuban, who hates Trump, was like, yeah, he didn't do anything wrong here, guys. You're like, if Mark Cuban's defending you, then
did Mark Cuban defend him? I thought it was Kevin O'Leary.
No, even Mark Cuban recently was like, he was literally defending Trump, which is crazy. Mark Cuban never defends Trump.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's just such a blatant like political like witch hunt type thing. And like the more you dig into like the actual like trial, it wasn't even a trial, but like you know, the actual like hearing, the more really nefarious stuff is coming out. And when you say like, imagine like I wouldn't support this if it was against Biden or Kamala or like whatever, but on the other side, there are actual crimes that they committed that they're getting a pass for in the legal system.
Right. Now, if there was a crime, I think crimes should be prosecuted.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you look at the Hur report that just came out, HURR, that's the special prosecutor that investigated the Biden classified documents thing. So, like, with Trump, he was a president, right? He left office and declassified a bunch of material that he brought with him to a Secret Service secured room in Mar-a-Lago, and he was negotiating with the Presidential Records Office or whatever to return some of those things, but he obviously wanted to keep some. But as president, he has the legal authority to declassify whatever he wants.
I agree. I don't know why any president gets to keep any paperwork, though.
But with Biden, he from the time that he was a senator to the time that he was vice president, he removed classified documents from, you know, the SCIF or like whatever kind of like secure storage they had, and put them in his garage and at his like teaching office which was paid for by the Chinese government, a grant from the Chinese government. and when the special prosecutor interviewed him,
what if there's like a secret tunnel that opens up in his garage? Like,
yeah.
Get the files. Okay, go back.
But the special prosecutor, when he looked into this stuff, he was like, oh yeah, Biden broke tons of laws, but he's he has such terrible dementia and terrible memory that no jury could convict him because he comes off as too sympathetic. So we're not going to charge him.
That's right.
And then Biden comes out and he's like, I don't have dementia. You know, I am operating on all 8 cylinders, and it's like, okay, so either you're too far gone to stand trial for the crimes that the special prosecutor said you definitely committed, or you are competent to stand trial and you're not competent to be president. Like it was just like such a weird situation.
I read that too. Like, I'm sorry, he's clearly not competent enough to stand trial. I'm like, wait, he's the president of the United States. What are you talking about? Hey, 1 second. Hey, Angie, get me an orange squirt, please. I'm parched. The code is 0123 pound.
What, do you have a code on your refrigerator or something?
I do, yeah.
Don't let the kids drink the good stuff.
Yeah, man. Like, you got to do that when you have like all these kids in and out your place. Hey, you're on Foul sent a 100 sec. He says, "Oh no, Stargate going wrong." Something like that. I'll explain to you guys more in the member section. So it's just something that grinds my gears. I tweeted, "Thanks, babe. I love you. You're beautiful." Yeah, I'll explain more in the member section. It's just a little weird going on right now with Stargate.
Yeah, and anything involved with Amazon is kind of weird. Like the latest remake of Roadhouse was like super bad. Was it Rings of Power? Like pretty much everything that Amazon has an actual hand in making is weird. It's not good.
Yeah, everything is weird. Everything has like these, like they make weird, really odd decisions on who's involved and how it's funded and how it's distributed, and it's just so their decision making it's like it's being passed through like an AI filter or something, and they're still A/B testing decisions. It's very odd.
Yeah, did you ever watch Citadel?
I did, yeah, because Priyanka Chopra is fine.
Oh my God. Mean Priyanka Chopra Jonas?
Is she a Jonas now?
Well, yeah, she married a Jonas a while ago.
She is so gorgeous. It's crazy.
Yeah. For the audience that doesn't know, so Amazon spent like $300 million on a 6-episode series called Citadel, and it was by the Russo brothers who did Endgame and Infinity War. And basically, originally it was an 8-episode series, but it was so bad that they had to go back and reshoot it. And they didn't have the budget to do all 8 episodes, so they had to cut it down to 6. But it was supposed to launch like a new James Bond style like franchise for Amazon, but like it was so boring and stupid that most people just didn't care about it when it came out.
I liked the first half of it, and then it lost me when it started to dive into the personal lives. It like totally lost me. It's like it was going breakneck speed, and it was like, wait, let's slow.
Well, one of the Russos basically had to come in and reshoot the whole thing. And I liked the cast, but like the actual story itself was just kind of like boring and stupid and didn't make a whole lot of sense.
And it zigged, and then it zagged, and then it zigged again, and it kept zigging randomly. We were like, okay, well, like these characters that you want me to invest in, I'm not sure if they're even good guys or bad guys.
Yeah, and the second season, it's not even the original cast returning. Like they're doing like like the Citadel of the UK or like something like that, where it's like a different location type thing, and they're trying to make it like a universe type style thing. But I'm not even sure if Amazon thinks that it's like a worthwhile investment. But that's just an example of like how much money like Amazon just like throws at stuff and like it just backfires on them.
The first time I ever bought anything from one of those, when you're streaming on Amazon, how it shows like you can buy the stuff that are in this episode or whatever. First time I've ever fallen for that was when I was looking at Priyanka Chopra's dress, and I'm like, that is a nice dress. And I saw the ad underneath it, so I clicked it, and it was like $16.95, like literally under $17. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna buy that for my wife right now.
I think the only original things that they've done outside of animation that have been successful are The Boys and Reacher. Those are the only two that I've heard have been.
I liked the Boys spinoff a little bit. It was,
The Boys Generation V. It was good.
Generation V. It was like hyper liberal, whatever, but man, it sort of worked.
I didn't read that into it, but
I mean, one of the girls' powers was like controlling her period blood.
Well, no, like one of their powers was basically she was a bloodbender, like she could control blood.
Oh, so I didn't know that was a thing.
But like she could use period blood to like use it to like cut someone's throat or whatever. But she could also make people's head explode. Like she could like basically control. Use it as a whip or like as a projectile or something like that.
So I'm sorry, but in The Boys, the most like the really super powerful chick that explodes heads, is she a bloodbender?
Yeah, and
snaps.
In Generation V, she's like the protector of the black girl who has the same power.
Oh, now see, they did not make that connection with me.
Really? Because they made a big point of it in like either the penultimate episode or the last episode of Generation V. Like you couldn't have missed it if you watched it, Brian.
It's possible I missed it.
Like they made a big deal out of it.
I did like I'm liking The Boys, and I did like Generation V though. Yeah, I don't know, man. There's a lot of weird stuff going on right now with the Stargate stuff, and a lot of it is none of it's new, but it's like people are coming out with information, information from our sources that we got like a year ago, that we talked about on this show like a year ago, and on the videos we put out. But apparently they're coming out and they're announcing the same exact things, or it's very odd, and I'll get into it in the member section. It's not worth doing a regular show.
You know what else is kind of like weird is like everything that's going on with Babylon 5. I don't know if you've heard anything about that.
There's a lot of weird stuff. Babylon 5 too. Yeah, and the creator, I'm forgetting his name right now.
Michael J. Straczynski.
Yeah,
J. Michael Straczynski.
Straczynski. Whatever.
Just call him J. Michael.
J. Michael. He is constantly arguing with people we know, by the way, on YouTube. They're like, actually, it's not coming out. You're lying. He's like,
oh, he nailed one of those Trek news accounts.
Right. One of the Trek people. And okay, here's the deal. We're going to talk about this in the Ghostbusters thing. I love citizen journalism. I love Twitter journalism and YouTube journalism. I love, like, we're doing it. We love doing it. We support it. We support freedom of speech. Do your thing. But there are people that just straight up report complete bullcrap. Like stuff that is completely made up, and they will do like a 30-minute video about nothing.
They'll mic zero it.
Right. They'll mic zero it. And I'm seeing that more and more. And in the absence of news, it gets really bad. When you don't have a lot and you don't have sources or whatever, you start to, take 4chan posts and make them entire stories, or read into things in Ghostbusters that isn't there, I get it. You need content, but like it makes us all look bad. No wonder why YouTubers are not trusted, because some of the videos I've seen that come out the last 3 weeks is like, really? That's what we're talking about? I don't.
Well, Brian, you know what's funny about this particular situation is that the news account got into an argument with the creator of the franchise that he was reporting on, who flat out told him, I've been in the rooms with the executives. I know what's going on with my show.
Right.
You're wrong. And the guy's like, no, you're wrong.
No, you're wrong.
Yeah,
the creator of the show who's in the meeting.
He's like, I trust my source, man. And Jay Michael's sitting there. He's like, your source is wrong. They're lying to you. And it blew up on Twitter, and it was so funny to watch because everyone was just like, dude, just take the L. Like, it's like, it's okay to admit you got a story wrong. You don't need to like go to, die on this hill fighting with the creator of the show himself.
You're fighting with the creator, the guy who's in the room. He's in the room. Like they can't do anything about Babylon 5 without him.
And he had no reason to lie about it.
No, he has zero reason to lie. Yeah, it's no, I trust my source who's a janitor at your office. Yeah, it's so odd. Yeah, so we'll talk about that. But let's talk about Ghostbusters, man. And by the way, thank you for everyone for being here today. I really appreciate it. Sorry I missed the last couple of shows. Work has been kicking my ass. I'm not joking. I've woken up on the floor, like at my shop, like at least 2 or 3 times in the last 2 weeks. Like,
are you still mainlining those Panera Bread energy drinks?
No, bro. They put them behind the counter, man. They put the Panera chargers behind the counter, and now I feel a little bit of shame when I go in there for my 3rd drink, and I'm like, can I get another Panera charger, please? They shouldn't have done that.
They psyched you out.
And you know why they put the chargers behind the counter? Is because there are people who cannot control themselves, and they, these like 92-pound blogger moms. They're on their 15th Panera charger, and they're like, I don't know what's going on. I'm having heart palpitations. I'm just drinking lemonade. And now they're suing Panera for having too much caffeine in their drinks. And I'm like, guys, us as a society, we need to stop allowing the stupidest of us to make the rules. Can we stop doing that? The stupidest people out there are making the rules because they're so stupid, and we feel the need to protect them. You know what? If you think it's a good idea to have 4 64-ounce Panera chargers and then attempt to run 3 miles home and you pass out in the middle of the street, that's on you. That's on you. You're an idiot. Survival of the fittest used to be a thing. I think sometimes if you are that stupid, you should be allowed to just reap the rewards of your stupidity, and the rest of us shouldn't be involved. That's it. I should not have to go to the counter and request a charger like I'm buying drugs. It's not fair. It's weird. So I've actually canceled my Panera account because now they're like gatekeeping how many drinks I can have, and they're looking at me with accusatory eyes. Accusatory eyes. I don't like it. So I used to pay for it. Hey, every couple hours you can go in there and get a drink. It's worth it. Except for now, I have to physically go to the counter. I have to wait in line. I have to pull out my app and do all this stuff. It's no longer the honor system. And look, when it was on the honor system, I never took more than I was allowed to take. But now that I have to go through the process of ordering it and all that nonsense, I'm not doing it. So you lost me, dude. You lost me because you allowed the stupidest people in the world to make the rules. We got to stop doing that.
Thank you, Biden.
Thank you, Biden. Thank you, Biden. Okay. I don't think Biden's anything to do with it.
It's Biden's America, man. There you go.
All I know is, like, you remember when all of a sudden McDonald's coffee got like really like lukewarm, and they no longer would heat the coffee up to a like reasonable degree. I used to go to
they got sued for serving hot coffee.
Right, they got Jesus, they got sued for serving hot coffee. Mm-hmm. So remember this. I was working in LA. I was working in Hollywood, and I would have to get up at like 3 a.m. If you know where I live and you know where LA is. So for me to get to West Hollywood by like 6 a.m, which was our shoot time for a lot of these things, I had to get up at like 3 a.m. to get into my 2 hours of traffic to get there in time.
Good old 405.
Yeah, the 405 freeway. It sucked. Well, there's only like one place with a drive-through open that has coffee at that time, and it's McDonald's, okay? And I'm not going to go to Dunkin' Donuts and get out of my car and wait in line with all the unwashed masses to get a subpar cup of coffee. And this is before Starbucks was really popular. And I wouldn't want to go to Starbucks anyways because it's like $6 for a regular cup of coffee. I want to go get just some dirt coffee quickly. So I'd hit the McDonald's drive-thru. I did it for like a year straight. And then one day, I noticed if I put any cream at all in my coffee, it was basically room temperature. And I'm like, why is the coffee so cold? Can you heat it up? Oh, we're not allowed to heat it up. What? What do you mean you're not allowed to heat it up? We're not allowed to. My brain, I was having like an aneurysm. I had like veins popping on my head. And that's when I found out that someone sued them because the coffee was too hot and they spilled it on themselves.
Well, what happened was, so it was a woman who went through the drive-thru. She ordered a coffee, and she put the coffee between her legs to hold it there as she was like driving, away with both hands. And the lid popped off, and some of it sloshed onto her thigh and caused like a major burn. And then she sued because the coffee was scalding hot. And it's just like, well, if you put it between your legs and, like as soon as you get it and drive off, like it was another one of those, what you just talked about with Panera Bread, like personal responsibility situations where it's like, okay, if you're going to sue McDonald's, okay, maybe sue them for like, your medical bills or something like that. But like she ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, you ruined it for everyone. Exactly. Same thing with Panera. Some mommy blogger, literally, I'm telling you, like she was blogging her whole thing, and she was on like her ninth, not joking, like her 9th Panera charger. By the way, there's so much sugar in lemonade, even just 9 of those. Like that's enough to mess up your health. But then she's like jogging with her stroller and filming her TikToks, and she collapsed on the ground, and she has like heart palpitations because she ingested like 2,500 milligrams of caffeine in like a 6-hour period. Hello?
Yeah, why didn't she sue the drink maker, right? For putting so much caffeine in their drinks.
It's so weird. Like, I don't... And now they have to put it behind the counter like it's porn at 7-Eleven or something. It's like one of those things where it's like they have to like card you before you can get a stupid drink. It's so weird. And she's ruined it for everyone. And I don't want to go on... We need to stop letting dumb people ruin it for the rest of us. Stop it. Stop it. And we keep doing it. For like my entire life, I keep hearing about dumb people getting away with murder. Not literally, but financial murder because they're so stupid they can't like handle a fork or drink a cup of coffee or understand what caffeine is, and the rest of us have to suffer.
Well, real quick before we get into Ghostbusters, so like there's been this thing that's this clip from Superman 3 that's been going around on Twitter, where like the old woman gets like turned into a cyborg, if you remember that scene.
No,
and that was a scene that was a scene that universally like traumatized children who watched Superman movies growing up in the 80s. And everyone in the replies is just like, oh, I remember that scene. It was so scary. It like freaked me out, blah, blah, blah. And with the Ghostbusters stuff, talking about, like, is it a horror movie or not? We all remember like the librarian at the beginning who turns into a ghost and she's super scared into like a cyborg and stuff like that. And it freaked me out. It gave me nightmares. But by exposing kids to that stuff, like from an early age in a way that, I mean, it's not super like going to scar you for life, but by exposing them to it, like you created a generation that was just like, yeah, like I can take anything. Right.
Right. Yeah. That same generation where they talk about, I saw a hilarious, I think it was a TikTok or short. I don't know. One of those stupid short form media that is ruining everything. But this guy was like, why did you guys drink out of the hose? Like, was there no water in your home? And like, and there was a stitch. And they go like, no, bro, it's because we were told to go outside and we weren't allowed to be back inside until it got dark. And the only place to drink water was from the hose. And by the way, the hose is fine.
Yeah. I mean, if you were out and it was hot, you were playing with the hose, you drink from the hose.
Yeah.
But it's the difference between Gen Z and like, or I should say Gen X and like millennials and Gen Z. It's like all the problems that we're facing now come from those two generations, not us.
Yeah. I wonder if like I ever sound like my dad, because I do the same thing where I'm like, if it wasn't for the millennials, if it wasn't for these Zoomers, I'm like, wait a minute, how?
Well, it's the same. It's like if it weren't for those dirty hippies, we wouldn't have like all this other stuff.
Right.
But
there's always one generation that ruins it for everyone else. I feel like the millennials weren't that bad. They just sort of, they were like the connective tissue between Generation X and the current Zoomer generation. But the Zoomers are horrible. They're the worst. The Zoomers are the worst.
I think a big portion of millennials were pretty bad too. But it's kind of funny because, talk about growing up and sound like your dad. Like when I was growing up, I loved to watch TV. I love to play video games. And now that I have a kid, I'm like, is he playing too many video games? Is he watching too much TV? Maybe he should go outside for a bit. I can totally get where my parents were coming from with me when I was growing up. But
yeah, but like we weren't allowed to play like any video games really. Like, I mean, in comparison, like we would get like, we got to play an hour of Super Mario Brothers 3 or whatever. And, the rest of the time it's like, go outside, stay out there.
Dude, you must have had very different parents than I did.
I had very strict parents.
Like when we were banished to the outside, we'd just go to a neighbor's house and play video games. Like it was just like we'd play for like hours on those things.
I did that a couple times.
Playing video games, but when we weren't playing video games, I was watching cartoons and movies. And
I watched a lot of Saturday morning cartoons. I watched a lot of Star Trek at like 2 a.m. when my parents were asleep. That kind of stuff. My parents were extremely strict, so television was, I don't know. It was something that was very restricted and very controlled. And we played outside a lot of sports, a lot of that kind of stuff.
So I remember when I was growing up, we had a basement that had like a little TV room in it. And I'd wait till my parents went to sleep and then I'd sneak downstairs and I would watch the original Stargate TV show on Showtime because that was the only time like I'd have access to watch the adult stuff. And at the time, the Stargate TV show was considered adult because it was a Showtime original.
Right. It was a Showtime original that in the very first episode, they had nudity
full bush. Full bush
and boobs one time. And that one scene is what labeled it mature for like 8 seasons straight. It was labeled mature. Even when it left Showtime and went to Sci-Fi, it was still labeled as TVMA. No cursing, no blood, no nudity, but yeah, it makes sense.
But if you go back and watch the original season, they've edited that out of the episode.
Yeah, they have. I actually had to buy you know what a PAL DVD is? Like PAL type instead of
like European?
Yeah, I had to buy like the Region 5 PAL version of Children of Gods in order to get the one with the push in it.
Well, it was funny because I remember when the original pilot for the Stargate TV show came out. So I was a big fan of the movie, and a lot of people were kind of excited because Showtime was really hyping up. It's like, oh, we got MacGyver and like he's gonna, do Stargate and stuff like that. And so like I feel like that bit of nudity was put in there because it was like the Showtime executives were like, hey, we're paid cable, like we need to push the edge, so put in some titties or something like that. And then like after the show got going, like they realized we don't need the nudity like and stuff.
Well, what's funny is they actually shot 2 versions of that. They shot the version where she's clothed, and they shot the version where they rip off her clothes. When they took out the nudity, they just reinserted the original scene that Brad wanted to put in there. That's all they did. So like you didn't actually lose anything. He originally didn't want nudity.
But I remember that the Stargate show was like Showtime late night. Like it only aired at like 9 p.m. or something like that. And I had to like wait till everyone went to sleep and then go downstairs and like secretly like watch it with the volume really low. And I had to be like really close to the TV to hear it. And it was just to watch Stargate. It's like children can watch Stargate nowadays when I had to like sneak out.
Yeah, Stargate's pretty tame. Now I'm like, hey, what are you watching there? What's going on? Why is there a lot of flags in that screen? What's happening there? I see a lot of color. Turn it off. All right, let's talk about Ghostbusters, man.
All right.
So Matt and I saw Ghostbusters last week. I saw it twice. It was actually very good. I liked it a lot. I think we talked a little bit on Saturday. Bottom line is there are problems with this movie for sure.
Yeah.
There are some logic issues and there's some pacing issues, and I do believe that it should have been a much longer movie if you had this many characters. And I would have liked
2.5 to 3 hours, yeah,
easily. And I could have seen. I could have totally have watched another hour of this easily. In fact, if they took that last act and they stretched it out to 45 minutes, would have been perfect, because I think the last act was too short. Some people are talking about this being queerbaiting, which is a term I recently learned. Queerbaiting.
Oh, you hadn't heard that before?
I see. When I was a kid, queerbaiting was when you taunted the queer to come close to you so you could smear him. Because we played Smear the Queer, and the queer had nothing to do with your sexuality. It was because you happened to have the ball. I don't know if you recall this. It was like rugby or something. You never played Smear the Queer?
Can't say I did.
Okay. Well, it was basically
I mean, I've heard of it, but
it was like violent keep away. Okay. And that's I played that a lot when I was a kid, because then we went from that to actual football. And so I learned this term recently, and basically what it is when you put a character in your show that is exhibits sort of ambiguous type of behavior, and you don't know if it's a LGBT or not, and you sort of leave it hanging in the air. And I can see what they're saying with this one, because I see you can see it both ways with Phoebe's character. And
Brian, real quick, are we doing spoilers or is this non-spoilers?
Oh, you know what? That's a great question. I'm gonna put it in the chat. We're gonna talk non-spoilers, but if you guys don't care about spoilers, then answer this poll as such. Great point.
Because, so non-spoiler, I will say that there's a plot line in this movie where, the main character of Phoebe meets a ghost who used to be a female,
right?
When she was alive. And there's a storyline in there where they become close, and it's like they give each other like kind of like longing looks, but it can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. And so there's this kind of debate raging where the people who wanted it to be like a lesbian thing are saying like, oh, like it was a love story, or Phoebe's gay. And then there are people out there like me, as I was watching it, and I was like, it just seems like Phoebe was this lonely girl who found a friend, and they were just friends. And this was a story about like this friendship. And I actually thought that it was a very interesting way to go about doing it. Like some people call it quote unquote queer baiting, because like they put it in there. But I think in this day and age, the fact that they left it ambiguous, and they didn't commit to like, making her gay, like they left it open to interpretation. So the people who wanted that can read that into it, and the people who don't want that don't have to read it into it. And I feel like it was a good compromise there on like the whole like woke crap in Hollywood, because I'm sure that there were people at Sony saying like, oh, you gotta put a gay character in there, but the people who made this movie, the Ghostbusters Frozen Empire movie, actually showed a great deal of restraint by just making it about this like family of Ghostbusters, right? Yep. And this new threat. And that was really the focus of the movie, as opposed to like preaching to you or having like all this like, woke crap in it, like diversity and inclusion and equity. And, there was one part where Patton Oswalt had a comment about the Exploration Society, which you see at the very beginning of the movie, which was like an old group of adventurers from New York City's like 1800s or something like that. And he said like they were a bunch of like rich white a-holes. And that was pretty much as woke as the movie got, right? Essentially. So, but it's Patton Oswalt, so of course you have to have that in there.
Of course, Patton Oswalt's going to be the one that says that too.
Yeah. But I honestly didn't mind his character. I thought he was kind of like he served a purpose in the story, which was to give some backstory to the new villain of the piece and all this other stuff. And honestly, like I've seen a lot of criticisms online from people who said there were too many subplots and all this other stuff. And I was like, I actually didn't think there were too many subplots. I thought that every character in the movie got their own plot line and got fleshed out, and they all kind of came together at the end. And I really honestly loved everything that was in the movie. I was never bored. I was never
bored either. On my second watch, I was like, I saw that criticism too, and I was like, I don't see any other subplots going on. Like, it's pretty much one plot, and the characters are all fulfilling their individual, like, what they have to do inside these plots.
Like, if you look at a movie like Batman v Superman, for instance, the Zack Snyder one, that movie is so convoluted. It has so many different plot lines going on, and they very rarely intersect.
Mm-hmm.
With Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, yes, it has a lot of plot lines going on, but they're all in service to the main story.
Right.
So like, you're getting some investigation into the supernatural stuff. You're getting the family stuff. You're getting the legacy character stuff. The one thing that I thought at the time when I was watching it didn't really fit was the whole thing with Finn and Slimer. Because at a certain point, Finn, or is his name Finn? Finn Wolfhard, the actor who plays like like
Stranger
the
Things
oldest
guy,
boy, Stranger Things guy. He has this thing where he's like trying to hunt Slimer because Slimer's haunting the firehouse, and he's right above his room, so like his slime keeps dripping onto his bed. But I thought like, that seems like a throwaway thing for nostalgia, but there's a payoff to it.
There is
at the end of the movie. And so like I was like, oh, okay. They set that up to be paid off.
Yeah, and it's a great payoff. And you know what? The spoilers poll, close enough for me, 88% to yes on spoilers. Let's go.
When this hits 88, you're going to see some real shit.
That's right. Once we get 88, I have to, in service of Back to the Future, say go for it.
Yeah. So if you don't want spoilers, leave now.
We're going to do spoilers, but we're not going to spoil like the ending of the movie or something crazy like that. But yes, the Slimer payoff was great. So there's a little ghost, and it's a little ghost, which I thought, by the way, I don't know who said this, you or Tom, but like them making a clear difference between the ghost is great.
Yeah, there are different categories of ghosts now, and this one was called the Possessor, and he's just this little laser beam that just shoots into stuff, and he can possess pretty much anything.
Right.
So it'll like he'll jump into a vacuum, and the vacuum will just start vacuuming on its own. So like it was a really interesting kind of expansion of like the different type of ghosts that are out there. So you have like the Slimers, and then you have like the Possessors, and just various different types. And they also expanded upon like this idea that there are anchors that keep ghosts in our realm, right? So like a person will die with unresolved issues, and there will be a physical, tangible object in our reality that anchors them to our reality, keeps them from passing on.
Like an organic death ghost trap. I like that.
Yeah.
By the way, Supernatural did that first, though. All I'm going to say. As far as Supernatural, like ghosts were always attached to something. That's how you would get rid of them, was by destroying that thing.
Well, didn't the real Ghostbusters cartoon show do that first?
Maybe you're right.
I mean, I don't
know. So the Possessor, it can possess things, and it was working in service to the main antagonist at some point, and it was trying to disrupt what they were doing in the firehouse, and it jumps into pizza. And just
first of all the Ghostbusters are trying to get this thing, and it just keeps hopping from like one thing to the next, and basically sabotaging their efforts to prepare for the big bad to come to them.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, like they get it cornered into a pizza box, and then it jumps into the pizza. And go ahead, Brian.
And the pizza's like flopping around the table, and it's about to come off the table. And that's when you get the Slimer payoff. And it was great. As someone who watched the cartoon, I want more Slimer. Let's be real. Slimer's an awesome character. And I know we haven't gotten to the point yet where he's actually like working with the Ghostbusters yet, like they did in the cartoon. But I can totally see us getting to the point where like Slimer's sort of cool. And he just bursts through the floor the way Slimer does, eats the pizza with the possessor in it, and then just goes straight to the roof.
Just flies off.
Bro, you understand? My kids never even seen the cartoon. All they know of Slimer is from the movies. They've only ever seen the movies. But when they saw Slimer, my youngest kid was like, Slimer! Like that. She lost it. Yeah. Seeing my kids react to Slimer the way I reacted to Slimer is awesome. You have no idea. My heart grows 14 sizes when my kids react the same exact way I reacted. It's amazing.
And you know what was great about this movie in particular is so like it's back in New York. Like with Afterlife, we were out in like the wilderness. I forget where it was, Montana or like something like that. Somewhere. And you know, like it was a Ghostbusters movie, but it didn't necessarily feel like a Ghostbusters movie. It felt like, you know, because the setting was so different. But because Ghostbusters 1 and 2 were very much like a New York setting, and they put the story back in New York for this movie, it felt more like an actual Ghostbusters movie than Afterlife did, in my opinion.
I agree. I thoroughly agree. I love that we're back in the firehouse. I love the new whatever they call it, the research center for Ghostbusters, whatever. I love that. I love that they're building the lore out, but it's not like some giant lore dump where it's a lot to process.
Well, in the movie, what was great is so like, you know, in the firehouse, they have like their ghost containment unit. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that they'd just been pumping ghosts in there since like the 80s. And they never thought like, oh, we might run out of room. And so Winston goes and buys like this old aquarium that's like on the outskirts of the city. And they build like this souped up ghost containment unit. And they have like all these rooms where they're testing out new Ghostbuster technology and you know, they're studying ghosts and all this other stuff. And it was a great expansion on the lore. And I just thought it was funny that like everyone, they were just like, oh yeah, like, you know, we were just, it was the 80s. So like, we didn't care. We didn't think about the future in the 80s.
Right. Yeah, it was pretty accurate too. Like, no, it's really good. Now just to sort of back this up on, or finish this up on the Queerbaiting thing. Now we can talk about spoilers. Basically, Phoebe, which is the main girl from Afterlife. She's
Egon's granddaughter.
Egon's granddaughter. You know, she is told that she can't be a Ghostbuster until she's 18. She's too young, and she's like in the middle of New York City.
And the mayor himself would sue the Ghostbusters for child endangerment and child labor abuse and stuff like that if they continued to employ her.
Which I know it sounds like silly initially, but then you're like, actually, she is a child. And she's controlling a nuclear-powered proton.
And she almost got killed at the beginning in the opening scene.
And she almost died. It makes sense. So she doesn't feel the same way. She feels like she's being left out. You know, Paul Rudd. Yeah, Paul Rudd, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Paul Rudd is attempting to console her or explain to her how, you know, that it's only a couple of years, whatever. So she takes off feeling, you know, dejected, sort of, you know, left out. And she goes to play chess by herself in the park, which is super sad, right? I'm going to go play chess by myself. And then the chess pieces move, and the audience initially thinks, oh, it's Egon.
Yeah, because in Afterlife, she was playing chess with his ghost.
Right. So you think of that. And she doesn't react because she probably thinks the same thing.
Yeah.
And then it ends up being this new ghost named Melody. And I'm not going to go into the spoiler about her, but like there's a whole reason why she's there. And it's a tragic thing because the reason people turn into ghosts is usually some kind of tragedy. And it's this whole tragic thing. And then they become friends. And they're the same age. They're going through the same kind of stuff where they feel alone and dejected. And it makes complete sense from my point of view for them to be friends, and to, especially for Phoebe, who doesn't really connect with people, makes sense for her to connect to a ghost that has a similar backstory to her, especially in her time of need. I did not look at it as lesbian or gay or anything. I didn't see it that way at all. Although
Yeah,
leaving the theater, I think your wife did the same thing. My wife was like, "Oh, lesbian stuff going on there, huh?"
I mean, I was getting like my gaydar was going off, or I was like, they're longingly looking at each other for the
Right.
extended periods and stuff, but they never committed to it. So I was like, well, I'm going to read it as just friendship. And there was a great scene. So like, basically Melody's visited Phoebe at the Ghostbusters house, and you can tell that they've made a connection. And there's a scene where Phoebe's with Ray at Ray's bookstore. And she's like, have you ever thought about what it would be like to be a ghost? And Ray just goes off. He's like, every single day, every single hour, every single day. And,
that was great. By the way, Ray was awesome. Dan Aykroyd was great in this movie. Great.
Yeah, he had the most screen time of any legacy Ghostbuster out there. And I love how like he's mentoring podcasts to be like the new, Ray and stuff like that. But
podcasting his hammer.
Yeah.
The hammer gets views, man.
Yeah, it does. He was doing the YouTube game, man.
He's playing the YouTube game. Totally.
Yeah.
He actually, every time he talked, he reminded me of like a couple of YouTubers we know, like mixed together.
Yeah, exactly. But that scene where she asked Ray about like what it was like being a ghost, like she wants to connect with her new friend, but like because they're on two literally different dimensions, like there's always this barrier separating them. And so like she goes to Ray and she's like, like, would it be okay to be a ghost? And Ray's just like yeah, totally. Yeah. Like I'm down for it. And so she uses that as the justification to basically figure out a way to temporarily become a ghost so she can hang out with her friend.
And they set it up. They set the whole thing up like this can pull your spirit out of your body. And, and she rigged it so that it would only last a couple minutes. That's only until like, remember, it's only going to last a couple minutes. It's like, what was she going to do? Like she's going to get turn into a ghost, start scissoring with Melody, and then just jump. And just, she literally wanted to connect with Melody in person, so to speak, for lack of better words, for a minute. It was a minute of time.
It was 2 minutes.
No, but by the time they actually got connected, it would have been like less than a minute and a half.
Yeah.
I don't know. From my perspective, I can see that they could have gone that way. But the point of this, though, is that they didn't. So, criticizing them by saying, well, look what they were going to do. Well, yeah, but they didn't. If your criticism is they were going to do this, but they didn't. So they didn't commit to that bit, which means you're interpreting it. You can interpret it either way, and looks like you're interpreting it that way, but you're going to get mad for interpreting it that way? I don't understand that concept.
Yeah, and there was a lot of great kind of sub-stories and subtext about fatherhood in this movie. Because Paul Rudd's whole thing, so like he's dating Phoebe's mom, and he was Phoebe's teacher, but he wants to be her dad, but he doesn't quite know like what boundaries he has with that. And throughout the movie, you see him like reach out and try to be like the father to Phoebe that she needs, essentially.
Yeah, because like their mom even says like, "It's okay, you could be the asshole." And he's like, "I'm not really the asshole type."
Yeah, but instead of making him like a deadbeat or like not wanting to be her dad or anything like that, it was actually a very positive message because like when the mom says like you can be the asshole, and he's like he never becomes the asshole.
He never does.
Yeah, like he'll give Phoebe a little bit of tough love throughout the movie, but essentially he's there to support her and lift her up, and then at the very end you get a payoff to that storyline. And
don't say what it is, but it's so good.
I won't, but it's very heartwarming, and it just made you feel good. Whereas like if you look at The Force Awakens, for instance, like Han Solo was a deadbeat dad. Like he turned out to be completely worthless. He like left to pursue his own life, left his wife, left his kid.
Right.
And Lucasfilm just has this same thing with Indy, like has this trope of like making dads out to be deadbeats and worthless and stuff like that. Whereas with this movie, there's actually like a really good message, not just with, Paul Rudd's character, but you also have Ernie Hudson, you have Dan Aykroyd. They're all in some type of mentorship or fatherly role in the movie,
and it fits perfectly with Afterlife. When you thought they were doing the Hollywood thing with Egon leaving his family and all that stuff, and only to find out that he dedicated his entire life and gave his life to protect his family. Like, they flipped it on its head. I love that Ghostbusters doing that, because I think you're totally right. There isn't enough of there isn't enough fatherhood in Hollywood anymore. Like, we don't get enough of the masculine parent
positive
positive fatherhood moments anymore in movies and TV shows.
And I think a lot of this kind of stems from what's his name, Jason Reitman's influence on the script, because he lost his father like either right before or during the making of this movie. And you can tell that like this is with the loss of Harold Ramis and Ivan Reitman, there's a lot of love and care put into this, and a lot of themes of like, we want to honor these guys by, honoring the characters and the situation and stuff like that. And the climax of the movie, so you have like the new Ghostbusters doing a very important task, then you have the old Ghostbusters doing an important task, and like they wouldn't have been able to succeed if one of them had failed. And it was so great to see how the movie brought the old and the new together to work together to defeat the bad guy, essentially. And it felt like a passing of the torch. So like I feel like if future Ghostbusters movies or whatever didn't get to use the legacy cast, like if one of them passed away, or Bill Murray didn't want to come back for whatever reason, or whatever the case
for
may
any
be.
reason, that sounds like Bill Murray. It's a Bill Murray thing. You just
and
I lost the phone number to you guys, so I'm just not gonna be in the next movie.
And I feel like Kumail Nanjiani, the guy who played the firekeeper,
the fire master or whatever.
I think it's the firekeeper, because it was gatekeeper and firekeeper and keymaster and stuff like that. But
was
I
it?
feel like,
Oh, okay.
Remember in the original Ghostbusters, are you the gatekeeper?
I think it's fire master.
I think it's firekeeper.
Someone let me know. Is it firekeeper or fire master?
But I feel like
because I remember they had that joke with the vape shop, the Fire Master's vape shop, and there's a Fire Master's vape shop here in Orange County.
Maybe. Regardless, I feel like he would be the spiritual successor to Venkman, especially because they had that great scene where Venkman just kept throwing pins at his face.
That was great.
Yeah, but like I feel like he could join the Ghostbusters, because he comes from a long line of ancient Ghostbusters, and he would be the sarcastic type dude like Venkman was. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and like this is my metric. Like, can you deal with the mayor? Who could deal with the mayor? And the whole time I was thinking, I need more Venkman dealing with this a-hole mayor.
Yeah, we only got one scene with him.
We only got one, but you know what? Kumail, whatever his name is, would have been just as fun to deal with the mayor. Like they both have that same kind of wit.
And there was a lot cut out of that scene where we saw it in the trailer where Paul Rudd's character is dealing with the mayor as well, where it's like objection sustained or like whatever. It was, you can tell a lot was cut out of this movie.
Yes, a lot was cut.
Yeah. Like I feel like the climax of the film, the third act, should have been at least another 15 minutes long, maybe 30 minutes long. Because there needed to be more build up, I think, to the main bad guy showing up.
Yeah, he just showed up like pretty much. It felt very rushed the way he showed up, but
yeah.
Lantino Slant, what's up, brother?
Hey, Paulie.
Paulie's in the chat, and he says, "Unfortunately, everything is so sexualized today that even this innocent new friendship fell into it. I thought it was one of the best new elements in the film." Yeah, I'm with you. I don't want to. This is a pretty hardcore spoiler, but I don't care because it's awesome. The melody Ghost uses her match to like start the chain of events that saves the day, and it just felt so satisfying. Like, imagine being in her. Sorry. Imagine being in her shoes, where for like 60, 70, 80 years, whatever she's been there as a ghost. She's been playing with this stupid match, the match that burned down her family. And she doesn't know what she needs to do to move on to see her family. And in that moment, she gets her opportunity to do the right thing. It's a really great payoff for that character.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I want to kind of defend a movie, I always look at like how well written the film is, how well told the story is. And one of the core fundamentals of that is basically setup and payoff, right? And they set up very early on, like after they introduce Melody and stuff like that, that she has a lot of guilt because she lit the match that burned down the house that not only killed her, but also killed her family. And so Phoebe, a lot of the relationship between her and Phoebe is about Phoebe trying to help her move on to the afterlife and help her assuage that guilt. And right before the climax, like she tells Melody, it's like, hey, your family's gone, my family's up here. I need to protect them. Can you help me? And Melody's kind of like reluctant to do it. And so when Phoebe leaves her to go save her family, essentially, you know, it looks like all is lost. And then Melody shows up and she creates that flame to basically set into motion the chain of events that helps them to defeat the bad guy. And then at the end, because she saved Phoebe's family, she basically made up for killing her own family, and she was able to like move on. And that's the payoff to the setup from earlier in the movie. And it was a perfect character arc for that character.
Arc, yeah. And like there was a beginning to it and a satisfying end. It was awesome. I liked it a lot. Again, for me, this movie was a 7 out of 10. We're going to the number section pretty soon here, guys. It was a 7 out of 10 because there were some things that were missing. Like we said, it could have been longer. There was a lot of characters. We said this in the Salty Nerd Show. I love the blonde guy a lot. I would have loved to have seen more.
Egon Jr.
Egon Jr. I would have loved to have seen more of, like, you know, the Paranormal Research Center or whatever. I'm hoping that we get that shot because right now, the Rotten Tomatoes score ain't looking too good. And I'm not saying that I judge my movies by Rotten Tomatoes. I actually don't. I do the opposite, but a lot of people do. So,
well, but you know, the movie made about as much money as Afterlife did. In fact, I think it made a little bit more. It overperformed expectations. But you know, the thing that gets me about this, Brian, is that Sony did little to no marketing for this. I don't think a lot of people knew it was coming out. Yeah. They chose March, like late March of all times, when it should have been like maybe like an April or even like a summer release, like put it out in June or August or something like that.
It should have come out in the summertime. This is a bad time for it to come out. I completely agree with you. And we're movie people. Like, we literally have I have a schedule. Like, I have notifications for when movies are going to come out ahead of time, so I can get ahead of it and start creating my reviews and all that stuff.
If I hadn't put this movie in my calendar in June, or I should say January, I wouldn't have known it was coming out because I didn't see commercials for it. I didn't see ads for it. I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I almost missed it. I actually got a call from my buddy who was like, hey, you want to see Ghostbusters Frozen Empire? I'm like, yeah. When do you want to go? He goes, well, tonight. I'm like, what?
Also, you know, the bad thing is that the Ghostbusters movie was scheduled to come out on this date for like a long time, but they Warner Brothers pushed Dune Part 2 back to like a week before this came out, right? And originally, like, it was supposed to come out like a little bit earlier in the year, but then they were like, the actor strikes, we want to move it back. And so like it got really stepped on by Dune Part 2. And the fact that happened and there was no marketing and like it was bad time of year to release it and all this other stuff, the fact that it's doing just as well as like the previous movie did says a lot about the strength. I think this movie is going to have legs. I think word of mouth is going to get out. I think a lot of people who don't see it in the theaters are probably going to jump on it as soon as it comes to streaming. And Sony actually created like a studio in-house, kind of like Lucasfilm or Marvel, but it's called Ghost Corps. And their job is just to make Ghostbusters content, because even if a movie doesn't do well,
they created like a Ghostbuster specific team.
Yeah, they've had this since 2016, right?
No
Ivan
joke.
Reitman started. It's called Ghost Corps. You'll see their logo at the beginning of each movie. But
that's what that was.
Yeah. And their job is to make Ghostbusters content. And even if this movie doesn't make a lot of money, it makes a lot in licensing. So toy sales, cartoons, shirts, lunch boxes, apparel, like all that stuff. Like, I don't know about you, but I went and got the Slimer popcorn bucket at the theater.
I want it so bad, dude. It's been sold out. I went to like 3 different theaters trying to find that popcorn bucket.
Yeah, it's only at AMC theaters, by the way. Is it? No, it might be only Regal theaters. I think the Dune bucket was at AMC.
The Dune bucket was for sure at Cinemark too, though.
Yeah, but Ghostbusters makes so much money from ancillary stuff. Like the first Ghostbusters made money, but the thing that really made the money were the toy sales and the cartoon and crap like that. So I feel like Sony's going to keep the Ghostbusters franchise alive, but I'd like to see stuff like I'd like to see a show on Netflix or Amazon. I'd like to see more movies. I'd like to see, maybe like webisodes or something like, or books or comic books or something to tie all this like into an expanded universe, because I really think that there's enough Ghostbuster people out there who would just love to see like more Ghostbusters stuff that would buy into it. So I don't think that even if this movie kind of underperforms a little bit, I don't think it's going to be something that ends the franchise. I think Sony's going to continue to make this stuff. And in fact, Brian, you even pointed this out to me at the end of this movie. They set the stage so that there could be Ghostbusters spin-offs in different parts of the country or different parts of the world, or like whatever the case may be. So like, I'd like to see this, kind of grow into like its own cinematic universe. Personally,
yeah, I don't see why I can't. I just don't like the reviews going out, but I didn't realize that they were making that much money. So that's money talks, man. BS walks. So when it comes to these 10-pole franchises, I don't care.
Also, keep in mind that the reason the critic score is so low is because the movie wasn't woke enough. There's been this movement online to kind of
they wanted to see Phoebe and Melody scissoring and talking about their trans rights or whatever.
Well, beyond that, there's been this movement online to try to poo-poo on Frozen Empire in favor of Ghostbusters 2016, and that's what the critics really want the franchise to move into. Is like, let's do full feminism. Let's do all female cast. Let's forget about white guys and heterosexuals and fathers and all this other stuff. 2016 was what they wanted to continue. And the fact that audiences rejected that and are going forward, and the studio's going forward with like the reboot of the reboot, which is the continuation of the original Ghostbusters with Afterlife and Frozen Empire. That's what the critics hate. Right. That's why they're giving it such low scores. It's not because it's a bad movie. It's because it doesn't fit the agenda that they want to push.
Right. No, I completely agree. Well, they're the majority of reasonable, logical people and fans have memed 2016 out of existence. It's no longer a viable anything for the studio. And this is where we're going. We're going forward with the original timeline. And I love the way that they are passing the torch to the new Spangler family. I love that it's a family thing. I love that there's still that the fatherhood, masculinity, mentorship. These are strong aspects of this team-based family. It's a family film. I love it. It reminds me of the good old days of Hollywood, and I hope they continue. But for us, also, we're gonna leave this. Go ahead.
Real quick, one more thing. This movie actually makes all like the cartoon and toys canon, and they referenced how like the Statue of Liberty incident in the second movie, and how there might have been some negative fallout from that. Like they basically take everything that we grew up in terms of like with Ghostbusters and things like that, and made it canon in this movie, and I really like that.
That's really great. I always wondered how they, the whole.
like how did they get it back?
How did they get it back? How did they get the Statue of Liberty back? Right.
Yeah. I believe the news report said the problematic Statue of Liberty incident.
Yeah, I do know that there's a company out there who makes the models, like Starship models, the DeLorean, the Ghostbuster car, whatever. And coming up here pretty soon, the Ghostbuster hearse is going to be coming out as a model that you can build over a period of time. And since I have not done this since the DeLorean, but I will be doing it for this one.
Dude, they even did the Ecto C, the motorcycle in this movie.
Oh, they did. Yes, they did. Yeah, and wasn't that part of the cartoons?
It was part of the cartoons, and it was a toy. It was a
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, real quick before we go to the member section, we're going to the member section here soon, and we're gonna be able to talk some trash. So if you want to be part of that, hit the join button below and come on over. I'm going to start that stream as soon as this is over. But first, John Burns for $6.99. Hello, thank you, John. He says, hi all. The CBS showed, the CBC, sorry, that's the Canadian Broadcasting Company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Showed the Quebec Winter Carnival with a snowman character called the Big Bonhomie in Ghostbusters. I thought he was at the end. I don't know what most of those words mean, man.
I think it's pronounced Bohom.
Bohom?
Boheme?
I gotta look it up now. There's Winter Carnival. Oh, it does sort of look like. So that's that character, I guess. It looks sort of like a Ghostbuster character. Oh, talking about the mid-credit scene. You know, a lot of people were like, that was just a throwaway mid-credit scene. It didn't do anything for the franchise. I'm like, actually, I disagree. It's showing, I think you said on Saturday, it's showing that the ghosts are out there, that they got out, and they're doing whatever they want to do. That's a whole setup.
Yeah, I also think that they kind of set the stage in Afterlife for like these epicenters of spiritual power, because they mentioned in this movie in Frozen Empire how like when Peck turned off, like the electricity for like the Ghostbusters firehouse, and I think it was the first Ghostbusters, and all the ghosts escaped.
Mm-hmm.
They made the firehouse like a linchpin between the spiritual realm and the physical realm, and I think that there are going to be more places like that across the world that the Ghostbusters are going to have to police, and that ghosts are naturally attracted to.
Yeah, ley lines. I think that they're going to use ley lines, and which I've always liked the idea when TV shows and movies use actual like ley lines that exist in our real world, that a lot of people consider to be like spiritual. A place where the veil is thinnest. If you believe in that kind of thing, but utilizing that as actual by the way, the firehouse on that map, if you remember, is on a ley line. Utilizing that in actual storytelling, I've always thought is really cool, because there are a lot of people that really believe in that stuff, and I don't know if it's real or not. I don't really care. I'm just trying to pay my bills and do a show every Monday and Wednesday, Monday and Thursday. But real or not, it's a cool thing to base real world things in. It almost connects all these various franchises together in a way, because a lot of places use the ley lines as spiritual hubs.
And Dan Aykroyd's a real stickler for that type of thing.
Yes, which I love. By the way, I'm telling you again, Dan Aykroyd was great in this movie.
There's a scene between him and Winston about their golden years.
The golden years, right?
It was one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I just love that, like because Winston keeps telling Ray, it's like, you keep putting yourself in danger, you put others in danger doing this. It's like you need to just retire and enjoy your golden years. And Dan Aykroyd is like, this is what I love doing. These are my golden years. This is how I want to spend my golden years. And then at the end, Winston kind of comes around, like, when the old crew is coming back together to save the day, and they just both look at each other and they're like, golden years. I wanted to cheer at that moment. It was
it's awesome.
Wow, it was beautiful.
Yeah, I really enjoyed like I said, I enjoyed the entire movie. My criticisms, I think are pretty much the same as Matt's. If you have a chance to see this in the theater, you really should go and see it in the theater.
Yeah, and
I'm not one of those weird guys where I'm like, watch everything in a theater, but like this was so much better in a theater, and I watched it originally on I watched it in a private screening on a much smaller screen, and I liked it, but I didn't love it until I saw it the next day with my kids in an actual theater.
And I'll tell you, like, the stuff that I would be critical of in this movie is so minuscule compared to the stuff that I loved in this. Like, you can criticize any movie to a certain extent, and yes, this movie does have its flaws, but overall, it was fun. You went to the theater and you had fun, and it reminded me of when I was a kid, I went and saw the first Ghostbusters and how much fun I had watching that movie. They captured the spirit of the franchise. And to me, that's the most important thing.
I agree. We're going to go to the member section, but I got to end with this. Bustin' makes me feel good. That's all I got to say. Go to the member section, everyone. Come on over. If you want to be a member, hit the join button below and bust with us, because bustin' makes us feel good.
Nothing is impossible. Just do it. Do it. Just